Let's go.
All right, yeah, we're going to jump right into our presentation today. So I'm going to turn it over to Mary Ann, and we're going to talk a little bit about what they are doing at the Egg Harbor Township Middle School.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mary Cassidy. I work at Fernwood Avenue Middle School. There are two middle schools in Egg Harbor Township, the other being Alder Avenue, and we run the same programs. I'm here with my presenter, Brian Costello. He runs robotics, and I run the coding. I teach the coding portion of the class. All right, so this year they made a change. Middle school has electives. We never had electives before. In 6th grade, they had tech integration, 7th grade and 8th. Well, one teacher taught 6th grade, and then 3 of us taught 7th and 8th grade tech integration. So we were always working with the core curriculum teachers. And then this year, they decided to make a change and give kids the electives. So the 3 electives that they have in 7th and 8th grade are coding, robotics, and entrepreneurship. In 6th grade now, they have a class. It's computer principles, and the 3 of us that teach the other courses teach computer principles, which is an introduction to all of the electives, as well as basic word processing, PowerPoint, and digital citizenship. And then the choices begin in 7th grade. So in 7th grade, they have a choice of one computer tech education course, which is one of those 3, and then they get one related arts, which is music, art, media. And so they have 2 marking periods of each class in a year. So this year they could choose coding, and then next year robotics, or this year entrepreneurship, and next year, they could choose, robotics, whatever. They have choices. Now coding, just to give you a general description of our course for the kids, this elective teaches computer programming skills using a variety of software programs, which include basic block coding, HTML and mobile application development. Projects include creating a web page using HTML, interactive mobile apps, and animated gaming projects. I'll just read you Brian's robotics. This class is an introduction to basic robotics, which includes the use of KNX, Arduino, snap circuits, microbit processors, and the Lego EV3. Students look at the impact of robots on society, create, build, and code robots to solve problems, complete missions, and dance. Students go through the decision-thinking process with all tasks and projects. Entrepreneurship. This class covers the key elements of entrepreneurship, including researching the character traits one must possess to become a successful entrepreneur, researching and creating all aspects of a business plan and marketing the business or product using social media, websites, and other means. So there's 2 teachers that teach entrepreneurship, one in Alder, one at Fernwood, 2 robotics, and 2 in coding. Now in the spring, the students are given a video. They see a video to determine which electives that they would like to do in 7th grade. So I have Leanne Mullen did a wonderful video that she shared with me. And
coding is a class where you use computers to make apps and develop web pages.
Using apps, making websites. We learn lots of different software programs, from block coding to HTML, creating web pages.
You learn how to do animations in Scratch. You learn how to create your own web page in HTML. And then you'll do a mobile app in App Lab or MIT App Inventor.
I think it's good to learn if you ever want to make a business or something like that, you can learn how to make a website for it. And if you want to pick a class where you actually have to think, then this would definitely be a good class.
Robotics class is a place where students can learn engineering and design, as well as coding and problem solving through the use of a number of different tools that we have. So students here, we've started learning from the ground up. You don't have to have any robotics knowledge at all. We start out with simple machines, programming, we talk about circuits. In robotics class, we code EV3s.
An EV3 brick is a Lego brick that can hold code, and you can build off of it to create a robotic design, such as following a line code or avoiding an obstacle. And then so we have different bricks we have to use. There's one with 2 different types of steering. We have to use rotation to flip it along, make sure it moves in the right direction. different types of sensors, like the color sensor, the touch sensor, the sounds that goes with it. You get to learn different types of things in case you want to be like a robotic engineer.
We really kind of wanted to give the kids an opportunity to learn more about themselves and starting a business and try to be successful.
Entrepreneurship is a class where you learn about business and have fun at the same time.
So entrepreneurship is basically like the study of like business and like how businesses grow and like the finances and all like the behind the scenes work. And then we learn about different entrepreneurs, which are people who basically start up those businesses.
They started with learning about famous entrepreneurs and their character traits that would make a great entrepreneur. After that, they went into creating a business plan, a company a logo, designing a product, and then ideas of bringing it to market.
We do multiple different projects like over the course of 2 terms, and we learn about different things like finances, we learn how to do interest, we learn all sorts of different formulas. We use both Google and Excel to like do the different spreadsheets, and like you take away a lot of stuff on like how to open a business, how to like do all the different like money terms, how to take care of the money and the accounting. You learn about different accounts and banks and things like that. It's a lot of like more real world information. I would say definitely go for it if you're someone into like the business and economic stuff like that. And honestly, it's good for anyone because everyone needs to learn how to like put their money into ways that it can grow and invest in things like that. So I'd say take it.
So, the second tab. Second one.
Oh, that's right here. Okay, all right, good. All right, so that's, she did a great job. And those kids will see it the end of March or beginning of April, depending on the park schedule. All right, so entrepreneurship, I got this. Fuji is our entrepreneurship teacher in Fernwood. They do the spreadsheet for personal budgets for the future. They do presentation software for intellectual property. They do Google Draw, concept maps, creating a logo, and then word processing. They do an elevator pitch. So coding, that's what I teach. We start with block programming. I researched it. I went actually to find the curriculum that I really liked. I looked at code.org. I looked at code at HS, code. And I found that San Francisco had a really good curriculum that I liked. It's not a lot of unplugged activities, and that's why kind of I lean towards that. It's a lot of practical projects that they do. They have a 9-week course, although I don't push deep into it because there are other things to teach. But they give you everything that you need. I'll pick up animation. I'll say. So they give you teacher work resources, they give you student page, they give you a demo project. They have bonus lessons, the objective for the lesson, the do now. And these are nice videos that they introduce the classes with for people who work for Pixar or they work for Disney or they work and they're all in the business. And they do actually kind of lean it towards girls, especially like costume design and lighting, but it's about a job in that industry. And so then they give mini lessons. They give you basically how long it will take to do it. I get some of these I share with the kids and actually work off of these because these demonstrations, these little videos that they have actually show them how to do it. So I really, really like the whole layout of the San Francisco website. And even with one of the projects that was not shared, and I contacted him, and here I actually put his name, Brian.
What is this site we're looking at?
This is it's San Francisco. It's actually CSNJ.
Okay.
Computer Science in San Francisco.
Okay.
And they use, well, this is all scratch. But they also have one for MIT App Inventor. They have one, actually here at Intersessions. They do Makey, Finch Robots, Microbits, and there's actually a whole course on, if I went to App Inventor, MIT App Inventor. In 7th grade and in 8th grade, they do, I believe it's code.org. But I'm using right now the 6th grade resource because that's what we started with is block coding.
For those of you who are dialing into Zoom, could you please mute your mics? Thank you so much.
And then, okay, so let me just go back here. All right, I have, so I also use App Lab. I really want to use MIT App Inventor, but our school, we have problems getting connection to MIT App Inventor. So I asked for donations for old phones and I didn't get any. So we're in the process of buying devices. But right now I'm using App Lab, which is fine. There's not many lessons and I can't really go as deep as I would like to go. HTML, we use Notepad and Google Sites, and then microbits, I use Makecode, which is microbit.org. And they're basically, that's how I break, that's my curriculum.
Can I ask a question about the Google Sites?
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah, I actually have a sample, but I do show you.
Okay, so are you using the old Google Sites?
I'm using the new Google
You're
Sites.
using the new Google Sites? and
Right.
HTML is now allowed up.
Oh, it is, okay, I don't do that through, I just do HTML through Notepad. I do the Google Sites to show them how easy it is to make a web page.
Oh, okay.
So they do definitions and pictures on that.
I thought you were combining them, so I misunderstood.
Yeah, yeah.
Because we used to be able to mess with the old Google Sites, but you can't do it with the new ones yet.
Okay, yeah, I had a problem with Google Drive opening up my web page in Google Drive in the browser, so that's why I came around with it.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. All right, for warm-up, I start with code.org. I have the accelerated course. I like using that because it tracks the kids' progress. I can go in and say, yes, you've done it, or you're not, you're just kind of rushing through it. And it teaches all the concepts. So I have functions, algorithms, conditionals, and it's a nice course. About 5 of the kids already, we're only taking mark period 5 weeks and have finished this course. So they go home and they do it. They like it. They really do like it. And a lot of times when I start an activity, I have to tell them to get off of it because they do really enjoy it. So that's the accelerated course. And then I also, once they complete it, I go to Intro to JavaScript with drawing and animation. And they find that very challenging, but those kids can be challenged. The ones who complete accelerated are ready for the challenge. In the second market period, I do the code.org web development unit, which is basically the same kind of concept, except they're creating a web page, and I also can track their progress. I just don't always know if they've done the exercise. They can get the green dot, but I don't really know that they've truly done it until the end when they actually create a web page, and then I ask them to show it to me, and some of them are quite surprised that they should have been building it all along. So that's the only thing. But other than that, I do web page, so I'm not, they do learn concepts there. Then I just have a few scratch projects that I get that through the curriculum computer science in San Francisco. So the animated name they start with, and it's really for kids who have no knowledge of coding. I start from the bare basics. They have to add sound, they have to have their name, and they have to have a look, and they have to have emotion. And then I've got space exploration teaches them the coordinate plane as it relates to Scratch. So it works with planets and remember this is middle school, so it's a little fun sometimes. I get very entertained great. Okay, so that's the coordinate plane. They had to come in, have a conversation. They had to go out to the 4 corners, and then the rocket ship had to take off. So that was the requirements for that project. The animated sprite, they get to use the drawing. They have a real nice custom editor, and so I give them a basic character, and then they can go as far as they want on it. And here's a cute little Harry Potter. Okay, so that's they draw it entirely from scratch and then they study it back up. All right, let's see. see, I've got background. So they had to learn that they could put a GIF inside of Scratch and draw a background that had 3 costume changes, so you could actually see a difference.
So
Yeah, so they had to draw a background with 3 costume changes and then add the GIFs. These two are added. Yeah, kind of strange characters, but again, it's musical. All right, racing game, they had to learn conditional. If it was touching the finish line, had to have some reactions. All right. Trying to think of this stuff. I thought it was the space. Yeah, it's not. Isn't that funny? The arrow keys? No. Did you do a space? I thought it was space.
if you have to click one of the characters,
No, I didn't actually.
it's the red button.
I didn't have it anything. Great. Okay. All right. We'll glitch there. Let's see. Let me go into my stuff here.
No, I tell the kids, you gotta draw, you have to have directions.
Oh, they do. Yeah. And I do too. I take off actually if they don't give it a tight on directions. I take a point off. And just find it and see if let's say racing game.
Are you guys using your own Scratch server?
No, we do have it on our desktop, but it's the older version. So we're using off the internet. So I do it that way.
You know what it's called? Just search for it.
It's called Rethink Game.
Right there.
Oh, yeah, okay. Here it says, I'll read the directions that he gave me. The game requires 2 players control the cat with the space bar, control with the other arrow. Yeah, that's what I did. Okay, it doesn't. There we go. A conditional. And then I had, let's see, the Shark Attack was a game. They brought in variables. The octopus, they go back to
I'm sorry, what?
it went back, if they ate the octopus, the score went back to 0.
Okay.
Yeah, so the variable when eaten gives them the points. And then, okay, so then we got into web design. I do have the notepad, the student made, let's see, which one was it? It was the one I came in and had. It was.
It's down at the bottom?
All about, oh, here it is.
Yeah, all about it.
Okay, so anyway, what they had to do is they had to have a list. They had to give their name, their information. They had to add pictures, animation. They had to have a hyperlink to anything that they liked. And it was called All About Me. So they gave, and it was, I don't know, I'd say about, I think it took about 4 days, 4 class periods to do this in Notepad. And then I had, then I had them do something in sites just to see how easy it was. So I had them do give. Wow.
Yeah, if we sign out, we'll get it bumped out.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, so anyway, what they had to do is they had to have definitions. There were 12 terms I gave them. They had to add pictures, and so then they could see how easy it was to actually create in Google Sites as compared to doing all the tags for HTML. All right, so then we moved on to microbits. I got a grant for $500 for microbits, and Brian had gotten some as well. And they're basically mini computers if you're not familiar. When I went to Omaha for a CSTA convention, everybody was all about the microbits. I went to they had a Korean group that came in and they talked about microbits and they showed how they replicated earthquakes with the microbits. And then I went to another one called physical computing with a guy from England, and he brought in all kinds of crafts, and he told a story about the Iron Man, and you had to read the Iron Man, and then he ended it at a point where you didn't know what the Iron Man would look like, and you had to put your microbit together, and he had all these crafts, and you built a robot, but to me it's too similar to robotics, so I'm not doing that assignment, but I thought it was very creative, even for those students who are not all about coding, but are artistic, so they could touch on, the microbit, maybe the eyes were hearts or something, and then they could, make it look really lifelike or, really tremendous. But, and then they had to write about it. They had to write their story, finish the story in just a short little paragraph. So we had to pretend we were the children and the students, and it was amazing how many different variations of the Iron Man there actually were in the story. So I was so impressed with the microbits, and I was glad that I won the grant so I could have these. Because to me, it's a real product. It's as if as far as Fitbits and, you see the product, you actually see it, see what it can do. And so I was glad that I was able to purchase that. And this is the introduction video. I'm not sure how many people were familiar. This is what I showed before we start.
The microbit is a pocket-sized computer that lets you get creative with digital technology. You can code, customize, and control your microbit from anywhere. Light up the LED display to create something simple in minutes, or even communicate between microbits. And get really creative with microbit's more advanced features like its buttons, motion detector, compass, and sensors. You could create a guitar that changes the volume the more you shake it. Or a flick football game that powers a microbit scoreboard. And you can connect it to other devices, sensors, and everyday objects. So you can water your thirsty plants, or use Bluetooth to take photos with your phone, and to control your music player. And you can customize the microbit in any way you can imagine. It's really anything you want it to be. I think it's a bit of a robot. It's quite different to any other technology I've used before. You just have fun with it. I can control my tablet. You can make games, you can take pictures, kind of something that's sent in, and you can just place it in your pocket and make whatever you want. Or describe it as a future.
So there is a lot of project tutorials. I'll just open that page and show you. You can go on very easily, and all kinds of tutorials on music tools, step-by-step directions, and then there also is a 14-week middle school curriculum if you decided to do that. They have a link there for that. They had the BBC gave out 1 million of these microbits and to 7th and 8th graders, and they did surveys and said 70% increase in girls saying they would definitely definitely do computer science as a subject after they had used the microbit. So they felt that the 1 million that they sent out to the school system was very successful. And I bought a 10-pack, $155 bundle. Spark Fun, I think is where we got it from. App Lab I'm doing for now. I really would like to do App Inventor. The code.org, here's the link for that. Okay, so it's App Lab. It's a very short little segment. And then here's one sample. There weren't a lot of projects to, wait. Oh, maybe because it's, I don't know, okay. No, all right, I'm not going to show, well, I guess I could. That's weird.
Do you always log in with Google?
I don't, no.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to mess you up.
It won't mess me up
Okay,
unless
fine.
you
Okay.
go continue with Google.
See, at home, everything works. Okay, so here, we click on run, so this was an adventure, they had to write a little story. You are linked, you have woken up in the shrine of resurrection after 100 years of slumber due to being fatally wounded in a battalion which fell battle while saving the kingdom of whatever, Hyrule. It's your goal to defeat Calamity, Ganon, so leave the shrine of resurrection and begin your journey. You can either go to sleep or you can get up and start leaving. So I'll go back to sleep, and it says, you got lazy, went back to sleep, ignoring your duties, the whole world is in danger, so try again and stop Calamity again. So they got their own, so they're using it's literacy as well as writing an app. So they got all kinds of stories. I just chose that one because
That's the original Zelda.
oh, is it? I mean, okay. So anyway, that was a student sample, and then I have a student, for the final project, they got to use Scratch or they could do Microbit. So they had to design a game, and one student, they were very different games. I'm not good at this, so it's going to end real quick. He went much longer than I did. Then they had she's a multiplication game. She was really great, 7th grade student, and took a lot of time. She was my #1 student, I'd say between 7th and 8th grade. This was a lot of work, and I'm just going to end it early. She had to pick your number. Under a minute. That's the goal, is to get it under 1 minute. You have 20 problems under a minute. And then my last project was, they added this year, the Scratch 3.0, where they have costumes, where they could go and, again, I think they're appealing to the girls. A little delay. Okay. I didn't see this one. Okay, anyway, what you do is you had outfits, and you would drag the outfit over to the little doll. Anyway, that was, it was a cute little game that they did. And then I did get one student do the microbit. A lot of them chose not to do it, and I need permission to the video too. Okay, this student made the video in media class, and he had the Gigglebot attached to the microbit. He didn't opt for the course. He wanted to raise somebody, but he couldn't actually find anyone I have a video, but so if you watch it, I guess, if it's shared, then you would see it. Anyway, that's a shame. Anyway, this is what my idea of the board game. I let them do any game, and I was thinking to have a board game of using the microbit as some component of the board game, and that was what I was striving for. But I think this marking period, or next marking period, they'll have more time to use it, and because I got them late in the year with my grant money, so I think that we'll get more kids who probably will actually do a board game. And some of these things. All right, so I think we're about it. Brian Costello.
I have a quick question. You got to stop sharing. Or are you using? Or is it
I'm going to use
your
this
slide?
first, and then I'm going to switch.
Okay, so there's a quick question about Scratch. We had to block Scratch in some districts only because students found that they could search for unsavory things. on there.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. So they were listening to like really non-appropriate music, and there are some things in there that we were not able to
Now, they're very, they used to be very strict about that. As a matter of fact, Alder Avenue had some profanity. They actually shut us down when we were doing coding club. And so we had to actually, we were warned that this could not happen again. So that's amazing.
And so in a couple districts, we actually have it shut off. That's what I was asking, if it's installed or if you're using it to the site. So that became a real concern. So like, if it's not on an iPad, they're not using it.
Wow.
You can download it and use it, like, up until this new version
They're on
2.0, I downloaded it on my hard drives and on my computers.
Yeah.
We did it all offline because my internet was not reliable way back when. This is the first time we've done that.
So now we have all these Chromebooks and they're like just typing in like rap music and stuff like crazy stuff pops up.
So there's student projects that have it?
They could be adults, I mean.
Right. The
Anybody
project
can get
does,
on
right,
And I can report them, I mean, that was.
Right.
There's like a lot to
But then they'll just do the name and
But the
start again.
teachers literally like just came running and said, shut it down, we don't want it anymore. They don't want it, they don't want it.
Goodness, my kids haven't
Wow.
figured that one out yet.
They haven't, yeah, so keep it on the,
Well, I actually just gave everybody the same password to make it easier for me for the doing it online. And I had little fourth grade boys go in and write bad things in others. Because they didn't have to get in under their names.
Yeah.
And I have to have everybody put in a different password, and then if they forget, you have to reset. But I was so appalled.
Yeah.
10-year-old,
9
9-year-old.
kids will be kids. Well, it was the third grade class that reported the trouble. So we had to,
I haven't seen any of it, yeah.
sorry, Brian.
No, it's all right. So I run the Fernwood Avenue Middle School robotics program with my counterpart in Alder Avenue, Gavin Field. Unlike coding curriculums, which are becoming more popular around the country, robotics curriculums are not really in existence for middle school in most places. I think as I searched as far as I could, I found maybe 3 or 4 people who do this in the whole country that I've found so far at the middle school level. Everybody does it as a club, and very few people do it as a program. So you saw the video, Gavin was talking about how we start with the basics. We want to give them a building block of what robotics consists of, which is, if you simplify it down to most simple things, it's simple machines, programming, and circuitry. There's a lot more to it if you want to get more complex, but at the middle school level, I want to keep it simple, and that means those 3 things are what they're really going to need to be able to do in order to get the robot to do things. Simple machines to make your robot move, circuitry to connect it and get the power to flow where it needs to go, and programming to tell it what to do. And so for that, we start out with simple things like connects, snap circuits. We use Arduinos and microbits. We use simple coding platforms, all just to get the kids familiar with the concepts of what they're going to be using later on when they start to build robots to solve problems. So we start off with that. We do a brief presentation where they learn a little bit about how robotics impact society, which is kind of what we're on now this semester. It's a semester-long class, so as we reset, I did bring some samples to show off some of the simple machines things, some things that were small enough to travel and also relatively cool, made by 7th and 8th graders. I didn't bring any of the coding projects and microbit stuff. I know that Marianne was bringing some of hers, but they basically worked through that. They worked on a lot of questions with this project, the presentation about how robots affect the workplace and what kind of jobs are going to be available in robotics. But also, I asked them to think about ethical questions that involve robots, because we're moving full speed into using artificial intelligence and robotics in society. We really need to think about how we go about that. I asked, what do you mean? I said, you're asking a hard question. Not whether we can, but whether we should. So what should we be doing with them? What are the limits supposed to be? Because these are the kids that are going to be making the changes with robots in the future, and I really want them to think about that stuff for as much time as possible. So they start with Connects for simple machines. It's a really easy way. It's very similar to Legos. They follow some visual instructions, which is also useful when they go to work on building Lego robots. I like to start them with instructions, 1, because of time, and 2, because a lot of times they're not used to having to think creatively to solve a problem. A lot of kids by the time they get to middle school have lost some of that creative flair, where you say, here's a bunch of junk, fix this problem, solve this thing, make this stuff. So they start off with the pictures. Once we get further into the robots, which is what we'll be starting with them next, they start off with the picture directions, but then I say, all right, build a basic robot. We have supplies, so we have 13 kits. I have about 110 kids at a time. So that means basically that our kids are splitting the robots, groups of 3 or 4. They get used almost every class period. So they keep the same basic design, and then I ask them to make and create attachments to solve the problems I give them. So one of the robots I'm going to show you after I'm done going through all that stuff is one that I had them do for the final project last year, which is pretty cool. So why do we use EV3s for the final, like the majority of our robotics work, is because they're very versatile. They're very easy to use, and they're relatively durable. They're kind of expensive, but there's so many things we can do with them. They have a lot of possibilities. So you can take the very basic kids who have very little understanding of any coding concepts, and they can program the robots to move around, to drive around a field and kind of make things move, solve some simple problems. And then you can get kids who are more advanced, who understand more complicated processes, whether it's more complicated build setups or more complicated codes, and really get them to problem solve with their robot. And you can take it from the simplest commands of just, so you can see a sample, this is a much more complicated program where they're trying to create an exact turn of 90 degrees. So they're using variables, and the data from the variable input of the sensor goes into the speed at which you turn. And over time, it will slow down as it gets closer to that 90 degrees until it stops when it's 0. So it's a little bit complicated, but it gives them an exact turn. They don't have to do it that way, but if they want to, that's an option to make it more precise. So it kind of creates a lot of opportunity for the kids to grow and develop the idea and understanding of both the engineering aspect of solving problems with the robots, and also the coding aspect of how conditional statements work, how variables work, and how loops work, which is pretty simple stuff for parallel variants kids are doing in coding, but it's a little bit of a piece that you can't really do robots without the programming aspect. But the EV3 is very versatile. It's really durable. I mean, they fall, they get dropped sometimes. I haven't had anything break. I haven't had any pieces break. They're incredibly solid. So the kids are using these things to solve problems. We have, one of the projects we do at the beginning when they just start working on how to get the robot to move is a dance contest. So their goal is to try and find a song or a piece of music that matches up with the movements of their robot. We had some pretty great entries this year, which, on an interesting side note, created a very strong familiarity for me with YouTube's copyright laws, because some of the songs were not available for reproduction. Unfortunately, if you're using it only for education, it falls under fair use and they're fair game. So you can, challenge those copyrights and show them off. So I'm just going to show you the 2 finalists. Actually, this is
She says that she's never afraid. Just picture everybody naked. She really doesn't have to wait. Not really.
So you challenge the copyright on that?
Oh yeah, because it's fair use. It's educational purposes only. It's an educational account. I'm not selling it. That one wasn't the copyright issue. Surprisingly enough, the copyright issue was the song from Hello Dolly that's in Wally.
Oh,
I had a class, I had a student that, because most of these songs are free to use if you're only using them for education, you can't monetize them. That one was set as you can't use it, period.
so it's not like it's out, like you have to have the link to be able to play it, right?
I'm playing, you can find the song on YouTube.
Oh,
So
okay.
I'm playing the songs from YouTube out loud on the
Okay,
speakers
so-
while their robots are doing this.
Okay.
But when you're using it only for educational purposes with an educational channel and you're not reproducing it or selling it in any way, shape, or form, it falls under YouTube's fair use policy, which means that you are allowed to use it. Their copyright claim things take months and months and months, so they're still technically open, but there's no issues. But it is something that's important to know if you're going to start using music, anything like that that's copyrighted. And honestly, the kids love this project. It's the one that they go crazy on the project. They spend a lot of time. They come in extra to work on their design of their robot, the attachments and everything. I had one group that actually built a replica of Wally with EV3 and had it dance to the song that from the movie, Blow Dolly, and even a little hat and dipping in the hat. And it was amazing. This second project here is one where they were teaching their robot to follow a black line on the floor. They're using the color sensor. And it basically would follow along the line, and then when it got to an obstacle, it would turn, grab the thing, and move it out of the way. Those are just some of the designs for the dance contest, the bottom corner. There were dozens of them. And then this up on the top here is the this year's first LEGO Big Robotic Challenge Field, which once we started this program, we developed interest in creating a team. So we were able to enter and compete in that challenge, which was a lot of fun and a really good setup for the kids. And now what we're using that challenge field as challenges for the kids this semester. So it gave us a lot of good ideas to make things better. You can see our team here. Of course, I didn't share that video. But our team here at the actual event, there's 15 other teams. First time we went, and we finished 9th in the competition for the field and 4th in robot design, which is pretty awesome. Where did you go to Salem County Community College? Was that Salem? Yeah, we entered really late, so typically people start this in late August, early September. We started it in November. Okay. And the competition was the beginning of January. So we had 6 weeks to get together, to work together, and make this happen, and Salem was the one we could get into. But yeah, the kids had an amazing time. They had a lot of great things to say about it. And it also translates back into interest for our program. The kids come back and talk about the stuff that they do, and also just having that field, seeing that field in the classroom, the kids already gravitate towards it because it's really interesting. And then one of the robots I brought with me, I'm going to show this on the camera in a minute, but is a design from our final project. So when I started talking to the kids the first day in class about what we were going to do, we hadn't figured out what the last project was going to be yet, because we were trying to think through what would be a good project. And I got the question from one of my students, are these robots ever going to do anything useful? Which was a really great question, because the answer was no at first. And I thought, well, what can we do that's useful? And I was inspired by one of the students I have who is one. And basically I thought, he's incredible at hearing his way around, and he can find his way around just by sounds and knowing the direction he's going and knowing who's around him just by hearing everything. Scent, everything like that. So I want to make a robot that can find its way towards a light source. So out of the dark, out of out of any situation where you'd be lost or stuck, and it would find the light source, but also warn you if there was an object in the way. So I challenged them to create a robot that would be able to seek out and find light, and also direct you in the safe direction out of wherever you were stuck.
Wait, do you want to show that on the screen?
Yeah, it's just the red button, right?
Yeah, just stop sharing.
All right. So that's this robot here. I'm going to have to bring it closer. So this one here, you can see it has the sensor on it to detect the color, the light, and this front sensor here to detect when it's hit something. And it's set up to spin around slowly in circles until it finds the light. Is there any way I can angle this over here without you guys up?
You can point it.
Sure. So what I have them do is just have a light shining, and when it finds the light, it makes a different noise, makes it turn around, and then back in the direction of the light, or off the table in this case. But yeah, the idea being, talked about how adorable they were in this one, fell apart while I was demonstrating it. But the idea being here that their robot would be able to, they said, find the light and continue moving in the direction of the light even if it had to go around something. So if it bumped into something, it changes the sound, has a different sound. So using, they're running multiple programs at once in block code, which is something that not many block code programs do. And they're also using multiple conditional statements in that setup so that it does one thing if it sees the light and does something else if it doesn't. This is our competition robot. So it's a little bit more complex, but I don't have to share it with a bunch of other kids in classes. These guys built this all themselves. They decided on the design. They built the attachments, everything else. Really cool, pretty awesome. And then some of the next projects I was sharing about, I couldn't bring some of the more complicated ones because they wouldn't have traveled very well. But they create the simple machines. And one of the things that I did at the end of last year was I asked them specifically, did this actually, so I asked them basically, did this stuff we did at the beginning of class actually help you later on to be able to do these projects, to be able to engineer, design, create problem-solving robots for us going forward? And overwhelmingly, the answer was yes. And I think that a lot of that comes from the fact that the kids come with very little experience for the most part in building anything, and also in programming. And the nice thing about another nice thing about the Lego programmers robots is there's not a ton of circuitry. Although I do have a lot of kids that get interested in it, so they'll pull the Arduinos out or the snap circuits. And actually at this market period just now, I had some kids that created a battery series and launched a small fan into the skylight of our main atrium, which they just thought was amazing. And now they are taking it upon themselves to build a sea perch in their spare time, so that they're basically building their own robot with some of the parts that we have that we aren't using. Sea perch is basically an aquatic robot that has a bunch of different sensors and motors on it that will allow them to hopefully build a seafaring robot that could potentially gather up trash along the way.
Is that part of that program?
It's not part of our program. It used to be part of our science program, but it's not anymore.
Do you have a pool?
We do. We have a 500-gallon pool that we picked up, set up and pick it down pretty easily. So we usually set it up in the spring if anybody does this. But these kids were inspired by the fact that they were able to wire circuits together. They got to see what would happen if they added voltage to a motor. What happens if they connect certain batteries in the series? What happens to the motor if they switch around the direction of energy flow? So if it goes one way, the fan goes nowhere, it blows air up in the air, blows air out. But if it goes the other way, as soon as the power stops, there's no more centrifugal force to keep it down, and it just launches up in the air, which they were fascinated by, and at which point they experimented with different battery strengths and probably blew a few of my snap circuits in the process, but we got some more powerful motors, we got some more powerful batteries, and let them really kind of explore their curiosity with it, which is great. So yeah, the whole program has been amazing with kids rediscovering an excitement for building and taking things apart and rewiring them and trying to solve problems with with different tools, because I have not seen enough of that recently, and I see more and more of it now. These kids are so excited about the smallest things that that wouldn't necessarily seem that exciting, but they don't do a lot of it. So they got a chance to move around, they got a chance to experiment with the different power flows and the different pieces that we have, whether it's the Legos or the different circuitries or the microbits, all of which they gravitate towards. They really enjoy the hands-on aspect of, okay, I want to do this, I put it together, it does this. It really makes a difference. So I don't have very good more things.
Yeah,
to
just
share
a
today.
few, you actually could do them there, just
Yeah.
statistics.
Could the green button, the green two piece at the bottom, it says share, click that. And then that first one.
All right, so no. So during the course, we took some Marianne's idea, she wanted to get some ideas from statistics on who's taking these classes. So in the second, third market period classes, one of the things we noticed was entrepreneurship has a little bit higher percentage. One of the reasons I think that comes down to, and something that I've heard from a lot of kids, is they didn't think they'd like coding and robotics, so they just picked that one. Now that I've seen some more sixth graders and also some more kids have taken the courses, I think it gives them a better idea, the kids coming up, what the courses are going to be like. And I think it'd be interesting to see what happens next year with those numbers if they balance out a little bit. The other really, really strong statistic that jumps out is the male-female ratio. Coding and robotics both really low compared to the entrepreneurship class, which again comes down to a lot of the females in our school, a lot of the girls in our school not thinking that they're going to like coding and robotics, that's not for them. When in reality, a lot of the kids that I have that enjoy it the most, and some of my best programmers, some of my best builders, and problem solvers are girls. In fact, a lot of them really. So it's interesting to me for sure to see that those statistics, and I'm really interested to see how they change over time once people start to understand what these courses are and what they're going to do with them.
What's the percentage of how many people took the course? It was an elective, so they got to choose the course, and 39% chose entrepreneurship. 39% of whole,
Yeah. So,
7th and 8th grade.
So all 7th and 8th graders, they have to choose one.
Right.
So they have to choose one of the three, and of those three, all the 7th and 8th graders, nearly 40% had on.
So they didn't have other choices in addition to these
The
choices?
second semester, the other semester, they would take an arts class.
Like
So
music,
art,
media.
art, media, music, or the three music, so band, chorus, and strings, and then it was art, media, or STEM. They took one of those two per semester.
so STEM is in addition to all of that.
STEM fits at least
Related
at the
arts.
moment in the related arts.
Yeah.
schools. It hasn't been, we have not really talked about moving it. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon anyway. But that also works nicely for those kids who really love to build and create, and to get those kids to get to do coding or robotics one market period in STEM. That's all. I see a lot of my kids from the market period, the first semester, going into coding or STEM. The STEM I was right next to my room. So I see a lot of those kids going right into STEM after they come with me.
A lot of my kids with coding go to media. A lot of the kids are in media.
So the statistics, I find them really fascinating. Like I said, I'm going to be very interested to see how they change over time. Now that kids who are in the school have friends who have taken the courses, have heard a little bit more about them, or the sixth graders who've been in our rooms have seen some of the stuff we're doing with those classes. I think it'll be interesting to see how those statistics change, if they change at all. So we also surveyed the students about what they did, or what they liked, what they felt was good, what they wanted more of, whether or not they liked picking their own specials, which a lot of them did. They also, a lot of them talked about the value when they talked about entrepreneurship, the value of actually learning how to handle their own finances. Most kids have no clue, not just how to handle finances, but also what the value of money is. So it's really good for them. A lot of both in Marianne's class and my class and across the board, kids asked for a next level class where they could go deeper into the topic that they did. And they really just, for the most part, there was a lot of positive reaction to the course. People really enjoyed them, which I said to my first semester kids, I'm like, look, this is the worst this class is ever going to be, because I've never done this before. None of us have. We have no idea how it, so one of the projects I did totally failed. Like it failed horribly because it was just not, it wasn't set up right for them to be successful. And they worked really hard on it, but it didn't pan out very well. And so they're very frustrated by that. But then we went and did some other projects that worked out really well, and back to reality of, hey, this isn't always going to work. So I think you have some of those kids that were like, I want to go further in this, I want to learn more. But just in general, a lot of really positive responses.
Very positive.
Suggestions, more courses in CTE that they liked. Some people wanted it to go back to giving everybody everything again. There were some kids who wanted that because they felt like they didn't get to pick all the things they wanted to do. They wanted to be able to do more things. which is definitely a concern for middle school because obviously middle school kids don't necessarily know what they want to do. And they don't necessarily know what they like, but while the suggestions were there, the overwhelming majority of kids were very pleased with what we did. And really excited about and interested about going and continuing these things. Not just in this year, but also a lot of kids asking, how do I get into this in high school? What can I do next year? In ninth grade, can I take computer science? Can I take robotics? How do I get into programs like that? So it was really good for our school to be getting kids excited about the great programs we have at the high school level as well.
So it's basically a feeder program for the computer science, and all that.
And to let our kids, to keep our kids in PhD because we have amazing programs there, and a lot of times you don't know it because you hear about the amazing programs at other schools and you think, oh, let's go there, but we have these programs here at our school. We wanted to get kids to know about those programs so that they wouldn't leave because they didn't think they could get it here. And so there's a lot of like that where the kids are interested in and excited about how can I do more of this next year and the following years as I go into high school. So I think that was a big success there as well. Any questions?
I guess the question I have, number one, I'd like to invite people to present what you just presented at our October, I believe it's in October, two-day computer science education event at the SRI UPTC, so I'll send you invitations to that. So thank you, this was great, and I think the way you presented it has made people say, yes, it's doable, it can be done. The other thing is, if people reach out and they want to know, like, your lesson plan structure, like, is that something you'd be willing to share with them?
Yeah.
Because you're building these from the ground up. Obviously, you're allowing yourself to fail when you need to fail and try something else and you need to try something else. If there's a way of being able to share some of the units out with other members of the CS New Jersey interview.
I mean, I don't think.
And I have, those links are all my curriculum. Every one of those links are what I really use.
I think what would be more helpful is like how many weeks did you spend on this?
So that,
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
Just a little
Most
guidance,
two-day
like
time.
about.
Yeah, I mean, we have a whole 45-day math that lays out
Right.
what we're doing when, because we see kids every other day.
Yeah.
So in a 90-day semester, we see kids 45, hopefully. And so, 45-day set of, we spent we spent 9 class periods doing the simple machines. They spent 3 or 4 class periods doing presentations. Then the rest, they start teaching them the different pieces of robotics and how to work the robot itself, which all really depends on them and how well they're going to pick it up and what they struggle with. So there were times when I thought I would be able to move on to a new thing, and it just didn't happen. Or also, for me, the first time teaching it, I thought I knew how to do something, and I got it to work for my robot, but when the kids went to do it, none of theirs worked. Every single one. I set up a table with like colored lines on the edges of it so that the robot wouldn't fall off the table. And I'm like, all right, this is how we do this. This is what you need to do. I set up, like, this is the type of programming pieces you need. Here's an example of how I did it. Go ahead, and every kid's robot fell off the table, like every single one. And we worked on it for like a day and a half. And then I looked at it, I said, there's the problem. And I said, we're not going to do this anymore. And we moved on to another lesson similar that helped them learn the same thing. And so it does kind of depend, but yeah, absolutely. I don't think there's any problem.
For sure.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Yes.
What do you need to make the program better?
What do we do to make, or what do you need? What do I need
Program better.
to make?
More equipment?
I need more robots. I mean, quite honestly, and I've already shared this, at the district level, the more robots I have for my class, the better it will be, because what happens is
That ratio.
the ratio in robots down. One of the reasons the second project didn't work well is because I asked them to both create the code and engineer the design. And what was happening was they have to take all their pieces off and store them, like all their custom pieces off and store them separately. But they weren't, like with the dance stuff, the custom pieces were designed basically, right? Or if they moved a little bit, it was very similar stuff. But with the the obstacle course thing that I had set up with them, their pieces were functional, and it was very difficult to fit them all in the same place. So it's a really serious, significant challenge for them engineering-wise. But they would spend every class period spending the first 35 minutes of class rebuilding the same thing that they built the day before. So it was frustrating for them because they didn't have a lot of time to test and readjust.
So if you had triple the number of robots, that would probably.
I would say even if I had double the robots I have right now, that would be enough so that I could have groups of 3 or 4 have their own robot for the entire semester, which is ideal. I've made some adjustments for this semester so that it shouldn't be quite as difficult to make some adjustments to projects as well as adjustments to what we're going to do with the robots themselves. So it shouldn't be quite as difficult for the kids to design and create things that they can take apart easily and put back on easily. The project that they were originally working on was, they basically had to fit all the sensors and an extra motor with an attachment to grab something all in the front of the robot, which, you know, I showed you guys the robot before. It's relatively small. There's not that many places to connect. So they were building these elaborate contraptions, and I only have sensors and motors for each robot, so they would have to take the sensors and motors out of the elaborate contraptions and then rebuild the whole thing the next class. Way too much time. It was really frustrating. So, I mean, but seeing as how this is the first year, I'm hoping that we'll get more. I mean, I asked for a lot. If I get half that, I'll be thrilled. But realistically, the more we get, the more likely it's going to be that the kids can really start engineering solutions.
And Alder has equal what you have.
Yes, we have the same.
How about storage? How you doing with storage? Bin boxes, all that kind of stuff?
I have lots of, I have a huge classroom. So,
Yes, you're
I have-
talking over.
yeah, so I'm fortunate enough to have a humongous classroom. I have lots of small plastic bins where they'll store their individual pieces, but then most of the robot stuff, I have them store in the kits. And then the robot bases, which are all pretty much similar, they go across the top on the chargers, because one of the things I learned is if the robot's not fully charged, some of the rotations and turn powers or turn radius is a little bit off. So the one program will run differently one day than it did the next because the robot wasn't charged up. The battery's almost dead, just not charged.
That explains a lot.
That's not it. The one thing I'd say I don't like about Legos is pieces tend to drop easily on the floor and they roll. And
Yes,
it's like
they do.
you have to be on them all the time, so you gotta pick them up.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate
They
that
come in at night and scoop everything up. And go right into the trash.
I am fortunate that the custodians that typically clean my room leave a small pile that I don't find. They're like under the computer tables. They just leave. They typically, I mean, if there's a substitute person or something, I probably lose a couple pieces here and there. And when I did restock everything, I noticed that there are a couple pieces that aren't there, but I also had a couple kits that weren't mine. Like they weren't brand new when I got them, so I have no idea all there or not. But I mean, overall, the amount of pieces that I don't have compared to how much they were used it's not a lot. And we did get we do have 5 of the expansion kits, which are just like the extra pieces basically for most of the stuff. So if they're ever missing anything, they just pull out the expansion design.
Allows you to design a lot more.
Oh yeah,
Without it, it's kind of
a little bit limited.
gotta
Yeah.
stretch with what.
Do they complain about the interface and how small everything is?
No, they just make it bigger. They just zoom in. Most of them, it's funny, they all figure out the keyboard shortcuts, and then so I started using the program probably 3 months before them. I mean, I did it a little bit in the spring, but mostly in the summer. So a lot of the times the projects I'm maybe a month ahead of them, learning how to do some of the stuff. So this last market period, a lot of the kids taught me how to do some of the shortcuts, the keyboard shortcuts to make it easier to make some of the specific interface with coding actually. But yeah, they just zoom in and then slide. They learn, they adapt pretty quickly. It's not that bad.
Okay.
It isn't awesome on the interface isn't really all that great for comics. So it's not. You definitely want to have either a Mac or PC. Chromebooks don't necessarily do a good job with these, so you definitely want to have some kind of operating system where you can download the software, because when you're trying to run it through a Chromebook, it is a bit more limited. It's not quite as good. Any questions? All sections were very good. Thank you.
All right, great presentation. We're going to jump into our regular routine here. A couple things we just got to talk about, some events, different things. I luckily am part of the Incorporated School District, so both of these programs are feeding into my program at the high school. So in that sense, I'm definitely a little spoiled. One thing that I'm starting to realize is a problem. As at least our district expands in the middle school and middle school with more robotics program, it's great we're getting to them earlier. One of the challenges you will have in your district is matching what your high school curriculum is with your middle school curriculum. So for instance, I teach computer science at the high school level, and we used to start off our intro class with drag and drop programming, which I'm now getting a lot of freshmen who've all been in their class, and now that first 2 months of school, they're like, well, I've been doing this all through age 3. So I think it's important that you communicate with your middle school teachers so that you can kind of help with that overlap. Like, hey, what are you doing down there? Okay, how's that feed in my program? How can I adjust my curriculum? I know Joe did a lot of stuff with it, Mindstorms as well at the high school. So that's always something to keep in mind. Do a good job, I think, communicating that, but having that time to talk with your middle school teachers and see, hey, what are you doing so that you limit the overlap and you can really expand onto this. Like I said, when our computer science program really took off, maybe 6 or 7 years ago, we were using Alice, and pretty much now every student that walks in my room knows drag and drop programming, so I'm ready to phase that out because our middle school teachers are doing such an awesome job of introducing students to programming. Just something to keep in mind as you're working with other teachers in your district. It's awesome that we're getting this out to students at a younger age, but there is going to be that impact on the higher level classes. We want to make sure, obviously, that we're challenging the students and not leaving anybody up at the same time. So it is an important communication to be had. Let's start our typical presentation. Just some chapter business. We have our typical, I don't think we have any new members here today. So everybody here is a regular member.
We have not yet gotten Brian.
They're not going to run.
No, I'm going to chase him down.
We just,
So, that's all right. He's busy tonight, but
yes, we'll get them.
I will not rest.
I think we're pretty good with membership IDs. Everybody here. Here's our officer team, so you have that to reference. We've been talking about the CSTA Plus membership. Remember, it's $50. You get access to different things, different software. Basically, CSTA is trying to provide more to the chapters and CSTA members. As a result, they've added this new feature of a little fee, so they can buy things like scholarships. We've had a national conference, grants for chapters that are running things. So that's why there is now this option for the $50 CSTA Plus membership. On our sites, where we are on Facebook, Twitter, where you can post all this good stuff, where you can follow announcements and different things going on. CSTASNJ, as always, still trying to continue keeping all of the New Jersey chapters on the same page. What are we doing throughout the state? We don't want to be separate. We want to kind of make sure we're all communicating, we're all on the same page. If one chapter has a good speaker, that would let the other chapter know, or was a programming competition in South Jersey, make sure the Central Jersey schools know, and vice versa. So there is the CSTASNJ group. We got the website there. We also have the Google group where you'll get periodic emails about what's going on in computer science education throughout the state, whether it's legislation update, whether it's just questions teachers have. Hey, I'm trying something with microbits. Have you ever done this? Or this would be good activity. So it's a nice little channel to be part of for that kind of communication. And the amount of emails is reasonable. You know, sometimes you get spammed with emails and you're like, get me off this chat. But it's a reasonable amount of emails in a given day, not excessive. All right, we're jumping into some shout outs. As always, make sure you are providing shout outs. So here I want to get many this month. The first one of our computer science students at Egg Harbor Township High School hosted a middle school hackathon a couple months ago. I think it was in December. She did a write-up for the CSTA The Voice, which is the quarterly publication, it's a national CSTA organization, and they actually published her summary of the event in the actual Voice. So that was kind of a neat accomplishment. She was very excited about that. StockHack did get a shout out in that article. So she was basically talking about how her experiences in hackathon encouraged her to want to run a hackathon for middle school students, because there aren't a lot of opportunities for middle school students. And she kind of gave a background about how it went, different ways or things you could do to host your own middle school event. But definitely thought that was a really neat thing that she was able to get that in the quarterly. As a junior in high school, to say she's been published in a national magazine, I think it's a pretty awesome thing. The second highlight deals with code.org. So code.org has their professional development program, which we will talk a little bit more about in a couple slides. They launched the opening. It's a national program, so there's different, I guess, different locations throughout the country that will run different cohorts throughout the country. And as part of their promotion for this, they actually showcased a video that was made at the New Jersey workshops over the summer. So at the New Jersey Code.org workshops, we're at CSTASNJ. A promotional video was put together that we actually shared with the Commissioner of Education in the state of New Jersey to say, hey, this is what computer science is. This is what we learned this week to kind of encourage support for computer science in New Jersey. Well, Code.org was so impressed with it and some of the things the teachers said about their experience that they used it to promote all of their workshops throughout the entire country. But it's a pretty awesome accomplishment for the state of New Jersey. Like, that's a tip in our cap for what we're doing here in New Jersey. Do we want to watch the video?
Yeah.
Let's watch the video. All right. No, password. I will put a live link on there. Looking at my password.
You want me to log in? Okay.
So,
Password.
please have my password
Put
saved.
this
and
on
everything.
put this on the,
Was- if not, I can find it. So this was,
Facebook was down today earlier though, so we'll see if it works.
this video Code.org put on their Twitter account, they put on their Facebook page. Like I said, definitely a pretty neat thing that something done by New Jersey teachers was showcased by the national group.
I'm just as bad as you. No, it's still down. Facebook was down earlier, so it's just as well.
Right, we'll find a way to get you access to that video. And it talks about the professional development program, what the experience was like, etc. And then the other shout out is the National Center for Women in Information Technology. I believe that's what it is. Offers aspirations in computing awards to high school female students. There were 8 female students from Egg Harbor Township that were either Greater Philadelphia Area Regional awardees, runners-up, or National Certificates of Distinction awardees. And there was a total of 54 girls that got one of those honors from the Greater Philadelphia region, which I'm not sure what that fully encloses, but it was South Jersey, and I guess everything from here to Philly and a little more west of Philly. So 8 female students from Egg Harbor Township at 54, so I thought that was a pretty awesome number. All right, some upcoming activities. The Girls Go CyberStart Challenge for high school girls is starting. It's not for middle school girls, unfortunately. Basically, it's to introduce females to cybersecurity and some of the skills, as well as the different challenges that arise in cybersecurity. So registration starts on, or they can goes live on March 20th is when the competition actually starts. So there's a link there if you want to take a look at that. There's also a link to some practice questions. We looked at this in a prior meeting. Some of it's simply some like Linux programming, but it's all on a website, so you really can't mess anything up. There's some Python, some of it's just like logic puzzles, where you may be given like a URL and they have to tweak something in that URL to accomplish the goal. So it's a lot of like gameplay and exploring more so than actually the teacher meeting the teacher, which is kind of nice because most teachers aren't going to have that cybersecurity background. My students did this last year, the females did, and a lot of them loved it. Like they did it at home, they did it during class instead of paying attention. Like once they got going in that game environment, they were all in on this. Like I said, teachers don't need to know any of the topics. It's all right there, self-explanatory. There are different level challenges. Go to the website so the participants can see this is an easy challenge, medium, hard, and kind of like you'll have cryptography, so it kind of sections it off. Cryptography, Python, Linux, and a bunch of different things. It is entirely free, and there are prizes. So New Jersey is one of a handful of states that participate in this challenge. It was actually supported by the governor, so he started promoting it. And if your students get first place in the state of New Jersey, I think there's upwards of $1,000 in prize money, so a little incentive. And just some feedback. So the goal of this program is to get females more excited about cybersecurity. Like I said, we saw in the middle school presentations that we have this issue where girls too often think this stuff isn't for them. So the purpose of making this challenge all girls is kind of, if we're trying to recruit females to try something new, do we necessarily want to come up with a competition where they're going to be competing against a group that maybe more traditionally has exposure to cybersecurity? If you want to say, hey, try this could be for you, see how you do against everybody who's doing it. Then naturally, hey, all right, I do as well, it's not for me. Right, so that's why, if you're wondering why is this like focused towards girls, but there's a next slide that is promising information. This is just some feedback. This is a quote. Amazing. I felt good about myself for the first time when it came to cyber stuff. I felt like it didn't matter if I was a girl. All that matters is my enthusiasm to grow my knowledge. The games weren't girly. So this is a perspective from a female that it was in an environment that they were comfortable with peers, with other female students, but at the same time it wasn't like, oh, you made this just for girls. It's just the challenge itself happened to be a competition side is for females. Before the game, 39% of girls said they had no interest in cyber. Afterwards, almost 70 wanted to learn more about it. So that's a pretty impressive statistic. So that leads to what about the boys? Right, so we got this challenge for the girls, what about the boys? There are multiple stages in this contest. So in stage 1, which is called assess, high schools that had a minimum of 5 girls who completed 6 or more challenges will qualify for stage 2 of the game. If your school qualifies for the game, all girls registered through your school will get access to that game component, and you will get 50 additional game licenses that can be used by any student. So you get your girls involved, they sign up, they complete a certain percentage of the exercises, they move on to the next stage in the competitive environment. However, you also get 50 licenses / accounts that any student can use, separate from the actual contest. So they can do the same activities. So now all of a sudden, you have 50 additional game licenses. You can have your male students now work with this stuff as well. And they just wouldn't be part of the quote-unquote competition. So their score wouldn't be part of the competition, but they would see all the same exercises. So a little way to say, all right, well, let's get girls engaged, I think get them into it, and then hopefully the engagement's there and get more opportunities for just your entire class. So that's the cyber start. Some other CSPD resource event, generic stuff. Once again, just going to constantly point it out because I think it's a big one. The CSTASNJ.org. It's a pretty big jumping off point, connects to all the CSTA chapters, a bunch of professional development throughout the state, a lot of hackathons, programming competitions. They're all posted on that website. Right, code.org, professional development. We mentioned this, video didn't work, but this is the professional development I was talking about. It's week-long training at the College of New Jersey to learn how to use either the code.org computer science principles curriculum or the code.org computer science discoveries curriculum. Principles for high school, discoveries for middle school. It is in the summer. It's the last week of July, if I remember correctly. It's 5 days and then 4 quarterly days throughout the year.
2 dates in the summer. Was there 2 dates?
Was one high school one?
All right, so is that on the next slide? It's on the next slide. All right, so here are the dates. Keep you to it. So let me do this real quick. So just to give you an idea, discoveries, they can classify as grades 6 to 10. Principles 9 to 12. There is some overlap. It's depending on your experience and what you want to do with your students. The summer workshops are as follows. Discoveries, there's 2. There's June 24th to the 28th, so that would be like 1 cohort. You either go to that week, or there's July 29th to August 2nd, and you would go that week. For the principals, there's only the 1 cohort. Right, and you explore the curriculum, the tools, you talk about how to manage the classroom if you're using code.org's curriculum, because they have a little different teaching strategy. It's not really any lecturing, it's all lead learner. The students are more engaged and you're facilitating them. The whole point was that if we're going to have people teach computer science, we're not necessarily going to have a bunch of computer scientists in the room teaching it. So you learn a lot about how to kind of execute that. There are some criteria for this. For instance, you do have to have commitment in advance that you're teaching the course the following year. So they're trying to get trained to people that are teaching the course. So I know that's one of the requirements when you apply is you have to have your principal confirm that you're going to be teaching that course. So even if you're like, you know what, this seems really neat, I would want to do it. So for instance, if Joe was like, this is great, he would need his principal to sign off that he's teaching the course. So you kind of have that restriction.
I'm under computer science on the school's website. Did you notice that?
I did not.
Yeah.
Do robotics. So what else we got? And it's ongoing support throughout the year. So after the week long, you also have 4 Saturday workshops. There is a fee. I want to say the fee this year is it's either $500 or $600. At the workshops, they do not provide housing. So you're talking coming up and back from CSTASNJ, which may or may not be the most convenient thing for us. They do, that money does cover, so you have Monday through Fridays, that's 5 days, plus 4, so that's 9 workshops throughout the entire year, plus breakfast and lunch at all the workshops. So although it seems like $600 up front, might seem like a lot, I would imagine a lot of districts would find that like reasonable when it's explained to them that it's actually 9 days of workshops. Any questions?
Okay, you can get a workshop. That's nice.
But in Tenport, it's $600 for the entire thing. Also, there are scholarship opportunities, depending on demographics of your school, where you're coming from, different things that you can apply for and help defer or knock down some of the costs on that. Questions? All right, another opportunity, PD opportunity, is the Rethink program at Drexel University. Basically what it is it's a research experience for teachers, and the focus is on machine learning to enhance human-centered computing. The way this program works is you actually go to Drexel. It's a 6-week program in the summer, so you are going up to Philly every day for 6 weeks, but you're working with a professor at Drexel, usually on a project that they're doing. So you get to see what like their research project is, what they're doing, learn about it. And the goal of the program is to see what is done at the collegiate level in research, and then take some of what you're learning there and helping them out with, and develop lesson plans that you could then implement in your classroom. So I know I actually did this a couple of years ago, and I worked with a professor that was doing artificial intelligence and game design, which was well beyond anything I had ever looked at, thought about, ever tried to learn. So what he was doing was like mind blowing, but what I got out of it is bringing back some of the tools that are out there to demonstrate artificial intelligence or how it works. That's kind of thing. Get to see the high level research, like what can your students do with all this awesome stuff? But part of this program is also how can you take this high level research stuff and whittle it down to stuff you can share with your students. So that is kind of a neat experience if you've never really been part of a research experience. Like I said, 6 weeks in the summer, as well as commitments throughout the year. It was conference calls when doing Google Hangouts when I did it a couple years ago. The one positive is this is a paid fellowship. So you get $8,000 for the summer, as well as a $2,000 supply budget. So when you go, you come up with an idea of how you're going to implement this. If you need things like robots or microbits or whatever it might be, they do provide you with a little supply budget to take this stuff back to your classroom.
Now, I did inquire last year about it. They wouldn't let me go without a partner, somebody else in the school district.
So 2 people per district?
Yeah. I tried to get Carmelita to come.
Isn't she a full year employee?
No, I don't think so.
No.
No,
I didn't realize
10 months, I think, yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Hands-on experience, I kind of summarized that, so cutting edge stuff. The only negative about this is the way our meeting aligned. This was in the Google group. The application deadline is March 16th, which is Saturday. So not a ton of time. All of the stuff, however, is stuff that you can complete. Like when I looked, I didn't see anything about recommendations from anybody or anything like that. The only thing it did say is your principal needed to have, you get a letter from your principal confirming that you'd be able to take some of this and implement it in your classroom. But real short and brief, it's like you have to go get tons and tons of levels of improvement to do this. The other thing that I saw is a full-time, so what applicants must have, full-time appointments to teach computer science or other STEM field at the high school and community college level. So I don't know if middle school teachers can do it.
They said that I could have, but I had
They weren't, maybe that's why you
Yeah,
needed,
exactly.
that they wanted somebody for
It was actually
the high
possible.
school level.
Right.
Right, so neat opportunity, something you might want to take a look at. Some other things as far as possibilities to further your education and things that might help dealing with technology in the classroom. We got the Master University of Art and Instructional Technology here in Stockton, online program that everybody that I think comes to these meetings does or did at one point or another, besides me. We have the Coding Teacher series. We got a couple upcoming workshops here. We have some stuff on Outlook, that's really fast. Raspberry Pi, which I'm assuming is probably good.
No,
not good yet. Right, so we got Raspberry Pi, we got Python, we have stuff all throughout March, April, May. We have stuff on Scratch. So once again, we've seen this, lots of different skill levels, right, that you can do in your classroom. Some of it might be stuff you want to do with the middle school students. Some of it might be stuff you want to do with the high school students. But everything is also catered that you don't have to have experience per se coming in to the workshop.
It's
Am I
pretty
correct?
funny, because like a lot of the people that were in your video, when I cover township, have been to those sessions. They come to all of them. So it's great to see the implementation.
Right.
This one, oh, for that,
Yeah. One more back.
one more,
No, one more.
one more. And everything's taught as if the person that walks in has no background. So you have different skill level in what type of classroom you would bring it to, but the expectation is not that an instructor comes in with knowledge of it. So like you may not use Raspberry Pis in a third grade classroom. Good, but that may not be something, that may be something you want to do in middle school or high school, but you don't necessarily have to be a high school teacher that has experience with Raspberry Pi. Lots of good stuff there. And there are some people going through the entire program for certification, but you can do it as standalone as well.
Absolutely.
On Makerspace Mondays, we got a couple of these left. We have March 18th to 25th, then 2 days in April and 2 days in May. The school year is quickly coming to an end.
We just got the root robot, so we'll be playing with that on Monday, the regular Monday. And hopefully, we're really playing with it on the programmable robots. That just, anybody have one?
What's the name?
The root, it's the one that crawls up the walls, like it's magnetic. And it reminds me of a giant Ozobot, but like I literally just got my hands on it today. So we'll see.
So Monday, what time?
It's all day. It's from 9 to 3. So, you'd be able to just.
Just got an email about this. ACCC is having a Drone Day Learning Symposium. This is Friday, May 31st, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., where they're going to talk a little bit about drones and different aspects and ramifications of things. Could be a neat symposium to attend. The invite or the e-bite link is right there. There is a fee for this, if I remember correctly. If you register in advance, the fee's $50, and the day of, I want to say it's $100. But it's on the Eventbrite, so you can take a look at that. That could be a neat experience. You know, a lot of times students are wondering, like, what can I do with this stuff we're learning? This is a good thing. I read into like drones and what drones can be used for, and just learning a little more about aircrafts. All right, so that pretty much wraps up the PD thing. The next thing, or better visit, is the programming competition, which is quickly upon us. Our programming competition is all set for Tuesday, March 26th. We are capped out at 220 students and 18 school districts.
18 school districts.
18 school districts, so it's pretty awesome that we're seeing this grow. This is our fourth year.
I think it's our 4th year. These are the schools that are participating: Abscami, Barnegat, Toontown, Brook Memorial High School, Brook Township High School, Burlington Township, Echover Township, James Caldwell High School, Mainland Regional High School, Ocean City, Randy School, Raritan High School, Red Bank Regional, Toms River High School East, Toms River High School North, and Toms River High School South and West.
So we got a
Very nice show.
nice answer. We're getting it from people throughout different regions and pockets of the state, which is pretty neat. It's not just Atlantic County, and Ocean County. So I think that's awesome. We are in need of volunteers. So if anybody is available to volunteer and come help.
What we're looking for specifically from our volunteers is to stand in the room and just make sure that people are proctored for it.
I could do that one.
Can you come on the
I'm coming,
26th?
I signed up.
Oh, you signed up, you're bringing kids though, right?
No.
No, you signed up
I
as
signed
a
up to help.
volunteer?
I signed up to volunteer.
Okay, so we've already got you then.
Yeah, I'm on that.
Adam,
I said, I'm not
judging.
judging, I'm only elementary, I'm not judging. But
Adam will be judging.
I can proctor.
And,
So what time do you want us to?
8 a.m. Do we not have you, you're not getting emails
I
from
am.
Joanne?
I got one.
Okay,
I
from
just wanted to make
Joanne. I
Yeah.
believe 8.
I didn't know if they would come to the meeting.
So,
Right.
So I'm very excited about this. It's always a great event. It's good to see the kids get enthusiastic about computer science. Good to see the kids get a chance to see other students in other schools and see where they stand in the pecking order. See that there's other people interested. Often in schools, the computer science classes are like the silo class by itself. So it's a good day for our students to be able to interact and kind of meet others that have similar interests. If you are not signed up to volunteer and you're able to,
please contact me.
you can shoot Michelle an email. We can get you on that list. We know that's short notice, but any help is greatly appreciated. Oh, that's the metrics that I just mentioned, 18 schools and 220 programmers. Okay, so I think It's just to the end here. Lots of great stuff going on, right? As always, we want to make sure we're sharing these things. So if you have any interest in presenting, please let us know. Make sure you're sending emails with any shout outs you have so we can kind of keep that feed going of all the great things. I think with the shout outs or even the presentations, teachers see what other teachers do and then start doing it as well. They kind of just all snowballs. So it's important that no matter what it is that you're doing in your classroom, that it has value. There's going to be somebody that's going to say, wait, I never thought about doing that, but that looks like something I can do. So whether it's presenting it or sharing what your students are doing or whatever it might be, it's going to spark more ideas for other teachers. So definitely going to encourage you to keep those coming. Future meetings, we have a meeting on May 18th, May 8th, 2019. And our July meeting is going to be slightly different. It's going to be on July 17th, which is
The third
the
Wednesday.
third Wednesday. And the reason for that is the CSTA National Conference is the prior week. So we kind of thought to have our CSTA meeting if the national conference is going on simultaneously.
Yeah, they're
Because we
going
get some
to give us
members.
some new direction for our chapters. I think they're going to want us to use their website a little bit more because they want us to change our websites again. So,
So we're going to get lots of feedback from the national conference that we'll then share the following week. So it's kind of just timing wise, it makes sense to push it back an extra week. It is going to be at night. In the past, in the summer, we've done the daytime meeting during lunch of Tech Stop, which we're kind of getting away with. We go back to a nighttime meeting. So just kind of mark your calendar, be aware of that. As always, if you have a topic you want to learn about, shoot us an email. If you're interested in presenting, let us know. And that wraps up tonight. Does anybody have any questions? Comments?
Sherry, Amy, do you have any questions?
All right.
All right.
Well, if we don't have any
Not
questions,
right now, thank you.
that wraps everything up. Thank you, everyone, for attending.
Thank you.